Hello everybody, Ron aka Daddy Geek, back from vacation and here with another Disney Infinity 2.0 Toy Box tutorial. And in this tutorial we are going to cover the checkpoint system and the level starter, two toys that you can use to control the opening, if you will, of your toy box. So when a player first loads up your toy box, you can use these two toys to not only control where the player spawns and what direction they're facing, but also any type of toys or effects that you want to go off when the player first loads up the game, whether it be just special effects or a cutscene or a quest, whatever that item may be or that kind of event may be. You can use the level starter to kick all that off the minute the player loads up the toy box. So we're out here on the main menu because we are going to first load up the example toy box I set up here so you can see what happens if you don't use a checkpoint system or if you don't use a level starter. So we're going to go under toy box and toy box saves, and we're going to load up the tutorial here, which is called the starter tutorial. Spoiler alert, you might see a couple other tutorials on there that haven't been uploaded yet. Those are coming very soon. You might see the color blocks tutorial and also the money tutorial. You can ignore the grr save there. That's something that didn't go quite right, and I'm still trying to work on that. Alright, so anyway, let's load up the starter tutorial and let's see what happens. Alright, as you can see, Donald loaded in here and he's just kind of in the middle of the forest here facing a random direction. That's not what we want the player to see when they first load up our toy box. I mean, that's fine if that is actually what you want them to see, but in this case we don't. We want them to have a certain view, and this is what we want them to see. We want them to start over here at the beginning of the road, looking down the road at this cottage. What we have here is we have a road cutting through the woods, and there's a cottage off to the side. And that is where we want the player's focal point drawn to. We want their focus on that cottage. That's the first thing we want them to see. We want them to know, hey, we want you to make your way over there. We can do this two different ways. One is we can use a checkpoint to make the player spawn right where I have Donald standing right now when they load up the level. And then also we're going to use a level starter to kick off a whole entire quest line dealing with the cottage and the dwarf that's standing there in front of the cottage in the background there. So that way the player knows immediately, hey, this is where I need to go, this is what I need to do. Alright, so here's what we're going to do. First things first, we're going to open up our editor, and we're going to go find the checkpoint, which is under Creativity Toys. And go a little bit to the left here, and we'll see the checkpoint. And we're just going to place it down right about where Donald's standing, right in the middle of the road there, a little bit off of the edge. So we'll place that down. Now, as you can see, since Donald was already standing in it, you see that not only do you see the checkpoint and you see the swirls, but you see the number 1. And what that represents is the fact that I, being player 1, have walked through the checkpoint, and now the checkpoint knows that, hey, player 1 will start here whenever they die and have to respawn. Now, if we had a second player playing right now and they walk through that checkpoint, there would also be a number 2 swirling around there. And as you can see, if you count, there's actually 4 swirls. And there would be a swirl for player number 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so if you ever wondered what all those little swirls are that are going on in the checkpoint, that's what they are. Alright, so now here's some things we need to know about the checkpoint. Bring out our wand. We're going to select the checkpoint. And now we're going to go under Properties. Now, under here you're going to find 4 different options. First one is Default 4. And currently, by default, it's set to none. What default 4 means is this is where you would set up your spawn point. If you leave it at none, it won't activate until a player actually walks over the checkpoint. If we select it, you'll see we have not only none, player 1 through 4, we also have all the teams listed, and then the option for all. So if we select all, no matter what player first loads in the game, all players 1 through 4 will load directly right there on the checkpoint. That's where they will start the level. So we're going to set the default for all. Now, as you saw, you could do it just for players 1, 2, 3, or 4, or for certain teams. Now, on contact, set for. This would be for as you set other checkpoints up further out in the level. If we leave it at individual players, say player 1 walks over checkpoint, but player 2 doesn't, well, that checkpoint will only then become active for player 1, and won't become active for player 2 until he or she walks over it. You can set this from all, so if one person walks over the checkpoint, it will activate it for everybody. Individual players, which is what the default is, or individual teams. So let's say one person from the blue team walked over it, it's going to set the checkpoint for all the blue team. If one person from red team walked over it, set it all for red team. What we're going to do is we're going to leave it for all. And if you actually go in here and select individual players, you saw that that's there, or individual teams, same thing, but we're going to leave it for all. So we want it on contact set for all. We actually could have left this alone because it's since we're setting it to default. By default, it's going to put it as all the players, but we'll just leave it there. The other option we have is available for, and by default it's set to all. What this means is the checkpoint can only be activated by certain players. For example, right now it's set to all, so any player can activate this checkpoint. Now we can actually set it up for teams, for none, or for individual players. So if we say, for example, if we set this as player 1, only player 1 could activate that checkpoint. Nobody else could activate that checkpoint. It won't be available for anybody else. Where this really comes in handy is if you're making a competitive multiplayer map. So say, for example, you have a pretty big map, and you have on the left-hand side of the map, you have the blue team. On the right-hand side of the map, you have the red team. And you have, like, let's say an objective in the middle. What you could do is you could have a checkpoint on the left-hand side and only make that checkpoint available for the blue team. Now, on the right-hand side, you could have another checkpoint and only make that available for the red team, which there isn't actually a red team. Why do I keep saying red team? Okay, we'll say for the green team then. You can only make it available for the green team. So that's one nice way to use a checkpoint, so you don't have players from one team making their way all the way to the other side of the map and activating the checkpoint, and then they can be spawning right behind enemy lines. So you can kind of, like, if you ever play Call of Duty, you know that you can basically, by doing this, you can eliminate spawn camping. So that's one good use for this. Right now we're just going to leave it for available for all. Now our fourth and final option says hidden, and what that does is it can actually hide the checkpoint. So if we back out of here, as you can see, with the wand, of course, it's out because it's a creativity toy. We put the wand away, we still see the checkpoint. Everything else disappeared, like the camera and the logic toys and all the different locators. They disappear, but the checkpoint still stays there. With the new option, you can actually go back in here, select it, go back under properties, and you can actually hide the checkpoint. So you can put it as hidden, we back out, we put away the wand, and presto, it's gone. Now, just because it's invisible doesn't mean it doesn't work. It still works just as if it wasn't hidden. It's still there. It still can be activated the same way. It still works the same way. It's just now it's hidden. So that way your level looks a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. You don't have to see this checkpoint. So again, it's still there. It's just that it's hidden. Now, here's something we need to know. Here's a problem. If you look at the checkpoint, you'll see that there is this little red ball there, this little red light. I'm not exactly sure what it's supposed to be, but that little red symbol there, that little red sphere. And you see these little three little black dotted lines right there. That indicates which direction the checkpoint is facing, thus which direction the player is going to be facing when they either die and respawn on that checkpoint, or in this case, since we set it to default, this is where they're going to, when they first load the level, that's where they're going to spawn, and they're unfortunately going to be spawning this way. Watch, I'll give you an example. We'll jump Donald off the edge here, and as you can see, he's now facing this direction. That is because that's the way we have the checkpoint oriented. So what we need to do is we need to turn that around. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab it, we're going to turn it around. Oops, wrong button. And now we're going to face it the other way, because we want it facing down the pathway. So why is it not going invisible on me? What happened? It reset itself. Why did it reset itself? Did I make a copy? I didn't make a copy. Why did it reset itself? That's interesting. It should not have reset itself. I'm not exactly sure why it did, but that's okay. We'll fix it. Oh. There we go. Alright, so we'll go under properties again. We'll put it default to, once again, to all. And we'll set all, and we'll put it on hidden. So there we go. Now it's hidden. Now if we fall off, Donald will spawn, but it'll be facing down the road. See, there you go. Now we're facing exactly the direction we want to face. So now we can actually take this a step further. We'll actually back all the way out of the level. We'll come back in and I'll show you that this will, Donald will spawn exactly how we have it set up. So let's save and exit. And now we'll go back out to the main menu. Bear with me here. There's going to be a few transitions from the game to the main menu and then back. So there'll be a few load screens in this tutorial, but it's necessary in order to demonstrate how this all works. So we're going to head back out into the main menu. Now we're going to go right back in. So we're going to go Toy Box save, and we'll just load that level back up, and you'll see Donald will start right where we set the checkpoint, facing the direction that we selected. And there you go. This is what the player would see if they first loaded up your toy box. Since we set the checkpoint here and we have it facing down the road, this is exactly the view that we wanted, and this is what the player will see. So we have now officially set a spawn point for this checkpoint. Now, here's some things to note about the checkpoint. One, if you set up further checkpoint down the road, so say let's have the player made their way through here, defeated some enemies, completed a quest or two, or what have you, and you wanted to set another checkpoint down here, for example, you can set it up, but then as soon as the player activates that second checkpoint, that overrides the first, so now that will be their default checkpoint as long as they're in the level. So if they are defeated, they die, they'll respawn at that second checkpoint that they activated, and they no longer will spawn at that first one. Now, if they exit completely out of the game and reload, then they will continue to spawn at this first one here because that's the one we set for default. So just keep that in mind, that checkpoints override each other as they're activated. So if you always want the player to respawn at that first checkpoint, you can't have other checkpoints. So now the other thing to note is that unless you tell the game otherwise, when you transition from one level to the other, if you set a checkpoint as default, that's where you're going to spawn. So we're going to go inside the cottage here, and we'll come right back out, and you'll see that Donald will spawn right back at the checkpoint that we set as the default spawn point. So we're inside the cottage, we're going to turn right around, we're going to go right back out as Donald gets smacked by the door, and we'll go right back, and you'll see that he'll be standing right on that checkpoint that we originally set up. So as you can see, there we are, we're standing on the checkpoint just as if we would have reloaded the level. Now, if you saw my toy box door tutorial video, you know we could change that by connecting a locator to the door and placing that locator anywhere we want, so that way when you exit the door, you'll be right in front of the door or wherever you want. You can adjust it, but if you have a checkpoint set as default, that's where you're going to be when you re-enter the level. Okay, so also keep that in mind if you have multiple levels connected to one toy box. That unless you use a locator or another checkpoint to tell the game where you want the player to spawn when they come back from the other level, they'll immediately go to whatever checkpoint is set as default, back to the default spawn point. Okay, so now that's pretty much it for checkpoints. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to having a quest start as soon as the game loads. Now, over here I have a cottage, and I have a dwarf standing in front of it, and there he goes shaking his head. And as you can see, I got a camera pointed at him. I also have an enemy wave generator and 2 text creators set over here. Now, I've already set these up, made the logic connections to save us some time in this video. So I've used all of these items many times in other tutorials, so you can just go back and watch that if you haven't seen any yet to see how they're all connected. But what we want to have happen here is we want the player to see this quest immediately as soon as they enter the level. That we want this quest to pop off. We're going to get a cutscene. We're going to get a camera change to this camera here right next to me. It's going to focus on the cottage and the dwarf. He's going to give us a quest to defeat some enemies, and we'll go defeat the enemies. Now, the old-fashioned way to do this was to use a trigger area, but there's problems with that. So we're going to go back into the editor. We're going to go under Creativity Toys, and we're going to find the trigger area. And as usual, I go the exact opposite direction I should have went. There it is. All right, so now we could take this trigger area. We could put it right in front of the checkpoint here. So that way, we hope the player will immediately walk a few steps forward and they enter it, and it'll trigger off the cutscene and the quest. But as I put it down, here's the problem with that. As you can see, unless we resize it, the player could simply walk off to the side. If flying is available, they could just fly right over it. If they start the level again, they're not going to see this checkpoint or the trigger area, so they can just see the cottage. They may walk straight forward towards the cottage and walk through the trigger area and start the quest. But then again, they may not. They may decide, oh, I'm going to go over here into the woods and just explore, and they may never walk through that trigger area and start the quest. And then they could be over here later and be like, this seems like kind of like a, is this just for decoration? Is this just, static environment here that we have a dwarf in a cottage? It kind of looks like there should be something happening here, but there's not. So, we could resize this trigger area to basically as big as we want and have a hope that they walk through it, but that's not very good. That's not really how we want to do that. And here, I'll just give you an example. We got this here. We have new logic connection, entered, player, any, and we'll go ahead and start this whole process by selecting the target camera. We'll say activate. And then from the target camera, I already have it set to go to the text creator, which then bounces to the next text creator. They bounce back and forth, hit the enemy wave generator, and generate enemies. So let's go ahead and we'll enter that trigger area, and you'll see that this will work. So the player spawns here, and again, we have this right next to the trigger area, so it's very likely they would walk through it, but you can't guarantee it. So here we go. As you can see, we get the little cutscene. You there, help me. Evil pigmen are attacking my cottage. I'm not exactly sure what these enemies are. I call them pigmen. And the game transitions back to the normal view, and there's the pigmen, and they're getting ready to attack. And being the good Donald that you are, you'll come over here and you'll save the day. Let's get these guys to activate here, get away from their spawn. And we'll defeat them. Ow! And as you can see, Happy did a little happy dance there, and he's all happy that we saved his day. Saved his life, saved the day, and he's gonna now go wander around because that's what NPCs do. Once you give them one behavior, they break logic, they no longer stand still, and they go explore. So let's grab him, and let's make him stand still again and put him back where he belongs. Still tell him to stand still. And now we're going to grab him, put him back where he was. So let's grab him. Come here, Happy. You're not supposed to be over there. Turn him around. Place him right where he was. So now you see that worked. But again, what happens if the player simply walks around the trigger area, or they go about their own business and miss it? We don't want that. We don't want to take that chance. So let's delete that and let's use something better. What we're going to do is we're going to use a toy called a level starter. So once again, we're going to open up our editor. We're going to go under Creativitoys and go over to the holographic Creativitoys here. I refer to them as the logic toys because they're pretty much just straight logic. Let's see, we need the level starter, and it looks like a row of dominoes. Okay, there's your level starter. And we're just going to actually place it right here because just for this demonstration. And now we can just use the level starter as is, but we could also put a little in-between toy here. We're gonna add a time delayer to kind of give us a little bit of a buffer before everything kicks off. So find your time delayer. We'll bring that out. And we'll put that down. So now, this level starter, this little hologram of dominoes, is a really good visual representation of what a level starter does. What it does is when you put one in your level and you connect Creativitoys to it, what happens is as soon as the player loads that level, whatever Creativitoys you have connected to it fire off. And the reason why they kind of use a domino hologram is because you can actually just start with one toy and make a chain of events that happens. It's kind of like a domino effect. You start the level starter, and the level starter, in this case, is going to start the time delayer, and from there, it's going to trigger everything else off. And you can use this level starter to pretty much start anything you want, any kind of Creativitoys, any kind of logic toys you want. And you can make multiple connections to one level starter. For this example, though, we're just going to make a simple connection from the level starter to the time delayer. So open this up. Under properties, you see there's only one option, active. By default, it's on. You can turn it to off and have it start later So I guess if you wanted to have something start later, I'm not sure why would you lose the level starter though. You could just use a logic gate for that, but not exactly sure where you would use this active at. So just leave it as on, because once your player loads your world and the level starter does its job, it won't function again. It won't fire off again, and you'll see that here in a minute. So what we're going to do is we're going to do new logic connection, and the one option you get is called catalyze. Now, when I first saw this, I was like, I knew what the level starter was supposed to do, but I wasn't sure what this meant. I was like, big word, hurting my brain. What does that mean? Basically, that's just a fancy term for saying activate or to make something happen. So you could go ahead and look it up yourself and see what I'm talking about. I mean, technically the word does fit here, but it just seems a little out of place, a little shocking when you first read it. It's kind of like catalyze. What do you? Am I going to burn something? But no, what it really means is to activate something, to start something. So we're going to select catalyze, and don't mind me as I go off on a little rant there. We're going to hit start delay. And now from here, we're going to just make a short little adjustment. We'll do like a 2-second delay. Give the player at least 2 seconds to load in before this cutscene kicks off. And from there, we're going to do a new logic connection, delay completed, and we'll target the camera again. And we'll say activate. So when the player loads in, they're going to be standing right here, right where we want them, facing the way we want. And after 2 seconds of a delay, the level starter is going to kick in, and it's going to start the time delayer. Then again, we'll start the camera, and the camera then creates the whole chain of events. So we basically open the game with a little bit of a cutscene. So now that we got that all set, in order for it to work, we need to save the game, exit out, and come back. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to quit. We'll save and exit. And we'll come right back in. And then, hopefully, if we did everything correctly, everything will fire off. Maybe. It's thinking. Uh-oh. Come on, PlayStation 4, don't fail me now. There we go, we're getting the evil stare, the evil eye from Captain America. Okay, we're back to the menu. We're going to go right back in, we're going to see what happens. Alright, so Toy Box saves, and once again we're just going to select that level. And get the evil eye from Captain America again. And now everything should fire off as we planned. There we go, you there, help me. Evil pigmen are attacking my cottage. And there is something else you need to be aware of. Now, did you just see that? We did not get the evil delay. We did, yeah, the evil delay. It is a little evil. We got the delay, but we didn't get. It didn't do what it was supposed to do. It should have done the cutscene real quick. We would have, saw the text. It should have cut back to the normal camera. It didn't. And now the reason why it didn't do that is just because the game's a little bit on the buggy side. Certain toys, for example, this one, major toys, I should say, like, for example, this one, the level starter, and also things like satellite receivers, proposal text for the text creators. These things can be a little bit buggy, and when you just go out to the menu and come right back in, they may not work correctly. So you have to back all the way out of the game and come back in. So that's what we're going to have to do here. Because as you can see, this is not working. Alright, so let's try this again. So we're going to quit without saving. And we're going to have to go all the way back out of the game. And what I mean by that is, like, for example, on the PlayStation 4, I'm going to have to go all the way back out to the dashboard and come back in. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back, and we'll show you how everything should work. Okay, and we're back. So I went all the way out to the dashboard, came back in, and now we're going to reload the save, and everything should work as it's supposed to. Now we went from the evil eye of Captain America to the grinning, grunting sneer of Hulk. Now we should get the proper delay and the proper cutscene. There we go, we're loaded in, and the cutscene should start right about now. And there it goes. You there, help me. Evil pigmen are attacking my cottage. Now we shouldn't have any problems. Now it should come back to the default camera view without any, there you go, without any problems. And again, sometimes if something doesn't work, head back out to them all the way out of the game, come back in and load, and try it there before you go trying to do other debugging. It's just a little helpful tip that may save you some time and frustration. So there we go. We got that done. We're in here. Everything loaded up the way it's supposed to. We'll type in more of these guys real quick. And then I'll show you a few more things and we'll be done with this video. So over here we go. Take care of this last guy here. Donald is a beast. Look at him go. Alright. So now, we did that. Happy did his little happy dance. Now he's going to wander off. So that was a nice way to do it. We started where we wanted the player to start. We immediately got a cutscene. It's a good way to introduce your character, your player, or your player's character, I should say, to your toy box. Now, once you do all that, if the player is defeated, dies, they come back. That doesn't count as a level restart. It's not going to restart the level. It's not going to fire off the level starter. Same thing as if you transition from one level of your toy box to another. So we can go inside the cottage here, and we can come back out, and it will not refire off the level starter. Like I said, it only fires off once when you first load the level. Now, transitioning between levels, even though it says loading, that's not the same thing. So we can come in here, we can mess around all day, we can do what we want, and go back out, and things will be exactly how we left them. We won't have to worry about the level starter once again firing off and starting that whole cutscene all over again. And as you can see, we spawn right where the checkpoint is because that's what we have set for default. And the level starter will not fire off. Happy is still wandering around aimlessly somewhere. There he is. And nothing else will happen. And that's exactly what we want. We do not want that to continuously fire off every time this level is loaded. Only when the player initially loads it from the main menu do we want it to fire off. So that is the level starter and checkpoint system. As you can see, they're not really that difficult to understand. It's just that they can be used to make your the player starting experience a lot better. So instead of just dropping them into a toy box and letting them figure out what to do, you can actually use it to fire off a cutscene in this case, or a quest and a cutscene, to give the player a sense of direction, a sense of what the toy box is about. You can also use it to fire off special effects if you want to kind of create certain atmosphere for your toy box, whether it be I don't know, fireworks, or use some of this, use the effects generator to make some explosions or some lightning strikes go off. Whatever you may be in the mood for, you can have all them get started by the level starter. And just be aware, if you're going to do something like that with the effects, you're going to want to use a repeater if you want them to constantly go off, because once they fire off one time, that will be it. They won't fire off no more. So you either have to put the effects on a loop or use a repeater to continuously repeat and cycle those special effects off. So that should be it for this video. As always, I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next week. We have I have 2 other videos already ready to get recorded and uploaded. One's going to be dealing with color changing blocks. The other one is going to be dealing with money management. So both of those are pretty interesting, especially that money management one. Not sure which one's going to go up next. It depends on which one I get done first. But either way, you're going to have 2 more videos already ready to go here really soon. Alright, until then, take care. Bye-bye. I'll see you next time.